Hi, everybody. You are listening to Judging Meghan with your host, Meghan Judge. I finally got a new microphone because the last episode with Lenore Skenazy, if my sound was off, I'm sorry, but I didn't want to reschedule on her because I'm a big fan of Free Range Parenting, the book, and I wanted to talk to her and I didn't want to reschedule. So if you listen to that episode and the sound was off, please forgive me. And I hope you come back and you keep listening. If any of you are so inclined, please leave me a review. It takes 2 seconds. You go on Apple or Spotify, wherever you're listening, you take out your phone, you go to the little purple app, you pull up Judging Meghan, you should be hitting follow show. It's like 3 dots in the right-hand corner. And then if you're so inclined, please leave me a quick review. That I would really appreciate it because it helps new listeners find me. And I'm so grateful to my longtime listeners. I just adore all of you. And when people reach out to me, it feeds and fuels my soul. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. The whole reason I do what I do is to spread awareness about mental health and my own struggles. And I have doctors and therapists and people that struggle with loss and grief and suicidal ideations and losing children. And all the things that I talk about are really to help people know that it's okay to talk about their problems and talk about their mental health. Unfortunately, I am going to get political for 1 second, which I'm sure I'm turning off American listeners with how political I've gotten lately, but this is important. The funding in our country is being cut for mental health, especially for the LGBTQ plus, which is horrific to me because they have astronomical suicide rates. Our suicide rates in this country are the highest they have ever been, and they continue to go upwards. And so for us to lose funding on something that is so important, I can't even. So write your congressmen, write your senators, go to protests, stick up for our beautiful country that our parents and our grandparents and generations have fought to have, and it's heartbreaking what's happening right now. It's heartbreaking. We've all been put here for a reason, and we all deserve acceptance.
Judging Meghan with Meghan Judge.
I'm a trauma survivor from a really young age, and I have been diagnosed with complex PTSD in the past few years. I've been surrounded by death and abuse much of my life. I've been dragged through the mud and have been to the point of not wanting to go on anymore. Through my interviews with other survivors, I've learned that there is a way out. From recovering to surviving and thriving, we all have the strength to come out the other side.
You are listening to Judging Meghan.
Okay, I want it to be a positive episode. So I'm going to bring my Canadian guest in. And before we recorded, I said, do you hate me? Can you forgive me? Dr. Mary Donohue is the CEO and founder of the Digital Wellness Center. She is also a best-selling author and a TEDx speaker. And I just can't wait to talk to you today. How are you?
I am very well. And I just want to say congratulations to you. I'm getting ready for this. I listened to your past podcast. Amazing. So if you haven't written a review and this is your first time listening, go listen to more of them. They're really on point for mental health.
No, thank you for saying that. My question to you is, was my sound awful? And I felt like Lenore hated me in the beginning of the episode.
No, your sound wasn't awful.
I had somebody reach out to me and they were like, she said something about the show's not about New York. And I was like, oh, no. It's just her personality. And by the end, sometimes you talk to people doing this. I usually warm up to people pretty quickly. It's just my personality. I think that's part of why I do this. But every once in a while, I get somebody that has a totally different personality than I do, and it takes me a second to get that person. And then I'm like, oh, I get you. And isn't that part of life? That's what we're supposed to do, is try to get each other, right?
And that's the big problem. We can't do that as well on digital. If you and I were in person, we'd probably already be hugging.
Yes, we would be, because I could tell I liked you from the minute I talked to you.
Me too.
Yeah.
But we can't, it's like we can't do that. And so also when we seem frustrated, it's because our brains aren't processing the information properly, Megan. And, there's a great book, The Man Who Forgot His Laptop, that demonstrates that 90% of what we see on digital is perceived in our brain as negative. So we're already stressed out by the time we spent 15 or 20 minutes on our phones or on email. And, all the time we spend on digital now, imagine what that's doing to our bodies. That's my job.
Okay. So when I read your bio, I'm extremely passionate about this. And I said to you before we started recording, I know I'm an addict. Like, I know I'm an addict of my phone. I'm positive. My husband tells me every day. I feel like it's scary. It's a scary thing. And we're going to get into that. But I want to start with where you're from, because I kind of touched on that, and why you got into this to begin with.
I am from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I also have family in Michigan, in California. I want to say hi to everybody. I miss you all very much. And I'm very, very grateful to be able to work in both countries and in Europe. How I got into this is I almost died in the back of an ambulance because I was so focused, Megan, on digital, on my work, on getting everything done, on succeeding, on being perfect at everything. And I took everything on. If there was a job somebody wasn't doing, I took it on. But the problem is you begin to get, I'm just going to say, like, too big for your britches. You think you can handle everything. Oh, I don't care if I'm super stressed. I'm fine. I don't care if I'm running 10 kilometers a day because I'm so upset and I'm crying while I'm running. It doesn't matter. That's normal. Like, I'm telling myself this. So by the time I started having a heart attack, I was at a competition with my daughter, and it was really important to her. And it was a 2-day competition, and every single mother out there knows exactly what I'm talking about when I say it wasn't about me, it was about her. And I got to the point where I could feel like I had a really bad flu, or I had really bad indigestion, and I was burping a lot, and I was just really tired. And like, by the time I got home to our house, like, Toronto is very much like New York, like old fashioned housing that you have really steep stairs right in the city. I couldn't even get up my stairs, and it was all my husband's fault, by the way. I can't tell you why, but like, he said something and I said, I just want a ginger ale. You don't understand. And I climbed upstairs, and it was midnight, and I called a helpline we have. You were talking earlier about what's funded, what's not. We have a helpline in Canada that we can call.
Oh,
and you talk
that's
to
great.
a nurse.
You're bragging, you Canadian.
I don't mean to. I'm just
No, I shouldn't even make light of this, but I'm so jealous. That's like so important. And I just proceed though, because right now I'm ever, like, the symptoms that you're talking about for heart attacks too are female symptoms. So we'll talk about that in a second, but keep going.
Well, I didn't even know there was a difference between the two. You're really good at one area in my line of work. And so I got upstairs, and I'm talking to her, and I am convinced the only thing I need is ginger ale. Like, that's it. I know if I have ginger ale, I will be fine. And a bath. I'm a big believer in a bath. A little bit of water before you go to bed. So my husband comes upstairs. I'm getting ready for a bath. So I'm naked. And she says to me as I'm talking on speakerphone, take 4 aspirins. And I'm like, oh my God, fine. Paul gets me some aspirins. I take the 4 aspirins, and then she goes, I'm calling 911. You're having a heart attack. And I'm like, as if. Do you really know? No, you don't know. I don't have time for a heart attack. Do you know my first meeting is tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock? I've got a long run planned. I've got to go. And I hung up the phone. Literally hung up the phone, because I knew better than the medical person on the other end of the phone. Well, I was 100% wrong, Megan. 100% wrong. I was getting into my bath, and then it was as if a knife was carving out my left breast. And it wasn't a sharp knife, it was a dull knife, and it was just pulling every muscle out. And I realized at that moment two things. Number one, damn it, I had to apologize to my husband. And number two, me being so stressed out probably would kill me.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at Paul straight in the face and I said, I love you very much. Please make sure our daughter knows how much I love her. And you should probably call 911 because I'm sorry, you were right. I am having a heart attack.
And you're young. Like, that is so scary. How long ago did this happen?
It'll be 3 years this coming Thanksgiving. Like nobody in my, like, it was American Thanksgiving, and in Canada we celebrated early. So there was nobody for me to call. My family was all watching football.
Okay. What I'm going to say about this is I have actually never done an episode in all these years about females and heart attacks and the amount of stress. So when I told you before we started, I was having debilitating panic attacks. That's part of why I left corporate America, because my panic attacks were so bad that I would wake up every night due to the stress and I couldn't catch my breath. And I felt like almost like a refrigerator, or old school refrigerators, they would like shut down and start back up. And it would be so scary. Like I was drowning almost, is how I can kind of describe it.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. And so I remember going to my doctor during this time, and they said to me, if you don't stop what you're doing, you are going to get sick and you are going to have a heart attack. And I'm somebody like you said, you were a runner. Like I was doing like Soul Cycle twice a day at one point, like a crazy person, like, because I think we're similar. I was so like, I needed to be like the best at my job, the top salesperson. I needed this. I needed to look a certain way. I needed to be the best mom. I needed to, and it was like constantly that thing that we have as females, where we are trying so hard to keep so many plates up in the air. So it doesn't surprise me when you say this, but the scariest thing is when you describe all of those symptoms, that people don't talk about it. People don't talk about what you just assume I'm having chest pains, but they don't know like all the digestive side effects like that they say, and there are warning signs, right? So can you talk about, before we kind of go into the digital side of it, what were like some of the warning signs? You said you were having really bad, like acid reflux. Is that correct?
Acid reflux. I had been really tired the night before. There wasn't the traditional, pain in your left arm. None of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I still am. I'm fit. Like I totally get when you were talking about 2 Soul Cycles a day. To me, that's like great stress management, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what we've been taught.
Mm-hmm.
But your body can't take as much. And I'm getting older now. My daughter's done university. Like my body has no more, or is losing all of its hormones. So you learn to cope in a different way. So I was very, very tired. I wasn't at all hungry. I didn't feel like I could get my running in. Like one of the things that should have been a trigger is I have bad asthma. I have since I was a baby. The first day, the Friday, I tried running. I usually was just going to do a quick 6 before I drove Jaya to the first day of the competition. And I couldn't even get through 3. And I was like, wow, I must be super tired from the night before. Maybe I shouldn't have had that glass of wine. It's all like, what did I do? What did I do? You never think your body is saying what I need.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I came home from the competition. I was really tired, and I had my dinner, which was, big Greek salad with some chicken, really good. Nothing. I didn't want anything. I just went to bed, had a bath, got up, was still really tired, and then just dragging my butt all day. But I tried to run. Again, I couldn't catch my breath. As the day progresses, I don't catch my breath. I don't catch my breath. I keep using my puffers. So now I've convinced myself that all my puffers are broken. That's why I can't catch my breath. It's not that my heart isn't pumping oxygen anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was one of the key factors. My heart, my breathing, I was only getting like 72% oxygen. I should be brain dead. And those are the signs. But as women, and I've talked to other women that have experienced it, honestly, we're all just saying, it's okay. I just need this. Like my one girlfriend's like, I just need black licorice. Another friend said, oh, maybe just some potato chips will get rid of that, that feeling. And we'll talk about the test, but one of the things I realized is, my friend Mohammed always goes to WebMD or something like that to check on all these symptoms, and he always thinks he's dying. Like it's always
I'm like that too. I'm like, what is that brown freckle on my foot?
The doctor needs to see you for a reason.
Yeah.
But you could see, like in the pictures, you can see, like I'm already very, very white. And I have no coloring. And my daughter's a totally different ethnicity than I am. And she looks gorgeous. And there I am looking like you can see the bones in my body. And then by the time you have such pain in your stomach and your chest that you're just like, I don't know. And here's the funny part about it. Even though I can't breathe, I'm stubborn. My daughter comes in after winning the competition with her then boyfriend. And I made the ambulance drivers hold me up by my waist because our stairway is so narrow they couldn't get the stretcher upstairs, and hold me so I could actually tell my daughter alive that I was totally fine. It was just mommy's tummy. Everything's good. Again, taking care of everybody but me. And I feel like you're that person too.
I am, but I'm not. Like, I call myself, if you look at my Instagram, part of what I say on my Instagram is heavily flawed. Like, I think that I can be very self-absorbed in a lot of ways, but I don't think, like, my husband's more like, he's the one that cooks. Like, I don't know how to make anything. I'm a helicopter mom. Like, I talked about that in the last episode. But I think I'm so paranoid that if I had all those symptoms, like I'm the person that would already have been in the ER the night before, like I constantly think I'm dying. But that's also because I lost my dad really young. So I think it's like a thing where I always think I'm going to die. But so, yeah, maybe a little bit, but I can relate to a lot of what you're saying. My question to you is, when you finally found yourself in the back of the ambulance and you go to the hospital and they're like, you're having a heart attack, was it were they like, you almost died, or was it, tell me about that?
No, it was in the ambulance. I didn't realize they were talking about me.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard them say, hit it, we're losing her, or something to that effect. And I was so annoyed because I was freezing cold. And I was like, why are you worrying about somebody else? Like, I think I'm not feeling well and we should be dealing with this right now. Mm-hmm. So by the time we get into the hospital, there's usually a wait period. There was no wait period. And I was like, well, isn't this good? Nobody's been, nobody else is hurt tonight. Like, I'm not processing information properly. And then they said to my husband, she's having a heart attack. We're going to give her morphine or something. He goes, okay, that's good. She doesn't react well to morphine. And I'm thinking, what are you talking about? But the morphine was for the pain, and then they give you nitroglycerin. And when I started to put things together, I was just, this is the weirdest thing ever. And if someone's not religious or don't believe in God, I'm sorry, but you've never nearly died, or you've never been in an oncology ward, because there's no atheists in an oncology ward. I'll tell you that right now. And there's no atheists in the cardiac critical care unit. I saw the cross in our hospital, and it just sort of lit up. And I was like, I'm good. I am totally good. God is just telling me to reset and I need to refocus my life. And I have ever since. The thing I struggled with was all the machines I was on because it was this doing the heart stuff. And I was in such bad shape that I had a nurse stand beside me. And I started to panic afterwards when everything was going on. And they took me to the cardiac critical care unit. And they treated me so well. And I had my own room. But I had a nurse and the doctor walked in and he said, Mary, it's 3:30. And all this happened at 11. It's 3:30 in the morning. I need for you to go to sleep because you're having an operation tomorrow. We can't get you to sleep. And I said, well, I can't go to sleep or I'll die. Like just straight up. I just knew somehow that I had to. And he said, I'll tell you what, I'll never forget him saying this. He said, what if I stand right here? And I promise you, you won't die. A nurse will stand right there. Will you go to sleep? And I did. And he kept his word. He was right there and a nurse was right there when I woke up.
Okay. Well, there's a couple of things I want to say with my big mouth. The spiritual part. So if you listen to the podcast, I talk a lot about spirituality and God. And I'm a believer. I'm here. I just want to do the best I can. And like I said, I'm so heavily flawed and I can be a big giant bitch sometimes. And I make mistakes every day, like we all do. We're human beings, but I just need to get there. I need to get to heaven one day and I need to be reunited with like all the people I've lost. I believe, and I had recently a famous hospice nurse, her name's Nurse Penny, come on. And she talks about how she didn't believe in God prior. She was atheist to her job, but she talks about at the end of life, how people see something and she knows it and there's something there. And so I always talk about signs and I talk about, I personally am Catholic. I grew up.
Well, we're Irish.
Irish. We're Irish Catholic. Yeah. And so, I've had it my whole life, but I'm more spiritual than anything else. And I will say that was your second chance. That was your wake up call. And if you're fortunate enough in life to get these signs and these wake up calls, there's a reason for it. And hence, now you have the second chance. And you realized, wait a second, like, what am I doing? I'm guessing you probably went, now I'm supposed to be using my story to help other women and people with their digital addiction, which is a real addiction, as you know. Like a real addiction in our brains is Dr. Mark Williams came on my podcast. He wrote a very famous book called The Human Connection. And he talks about like how we're not connecting, like our faces are in our phones. We, back in like the 70s and 80s, my dad was an orthodontist. Like he would go to work, do his charts, be done. Now you cannot be done with a job. If you're in sales like I was, it was like constant, like, oh my God, am I going to hit my number this month? Oh my God. Like, how am I going to get my kid here, my kid there? If I'm in my car, I know I can't look at my phone, but if I go to a stoplight, I'm going to be honest, I do. And then the minute I see an email, I go, oh my God, I have to answer that person. I have to get back to them right now. Right? So like, tell me about that. Tell me about like, you finally get out and you realize all of this.
I think, the thing was the machines were keeping me alive. Mm-hmm. And I realized that machines can be used for good. Mm-hmm. And that became my mantra, for lack of a better and I started to become obsessed with my heart rate because I have an Apple Watch and it was going crazy, like your heart rate's too high, and again I'm like, oh, the Apple Watch is wrong, but it wasn't wrong. But to talk about what you're talking about, the digital addictions, I was exactly the same as you. I had to get back to people right away. I had to email them right away. I had to text them right away. Oh my God, like I've missed this phone call. My world is going to end. And I'm an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for 3 decades now. Like I think even longer because my first business, I was 12. So, when we look at what phones do, and in my book, it's called Message Receive, I talk about what's going on in your brain. Like your prefrontal cortex isn't connecting to your intrinsic or your reptilian brain back here. Your prefrontal cortex and your back brain aren't connecting. We aren't used to talking like this from a neuroscientific standpoint. Look, it's only been since 2007 we've been doing this. We did take laptops home before that. I'm older than you, so I remember when we would just pack up our laptops and go home and go to work. Nobody could get us when we were on the bus, when we were in the car. So we had that space, that elevator time to sort of just decompress. And now there's no decompression. And there's also our brain, our mammalian brain. You just talked about your dad and you talked about the sadness of your dad, but you remember the patterns of your father because those are in your mammalian brain. That's where you learn, we'll do a quiz right now. Let's do a quiz.
Okay. I love a quiz. I love a quiz. Yeah, let's go.
It's my famous research quiz. How are you?
How am I? Is that what you said? I'm good.
How's your day?
It's actually kind of going well because I met you and I like you.
Awesome. Great response. Do you know what? Your mammalian brain just pulled that out because I watched your face. I watched your eyes. Visually, you were doing a quick check. You were like, okay, is this good? Is this good? Is this good? And then from a kinesthetic point of view, your feelings point of view, you did a quick check to your body. Your body was feeling, how am I? What am I doing? When I talked about, all of the other things, just those 6 words, boom, 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 I could see you were giving me a truthful, quick answer that you had been trained to do for years and years and years. You didn't tell me about your daughter. You didn't tell me about your husband because that's not part of the cadence of our speech. Now, here's something interesting. With over 34,000 people, we did emails, 2 emails. How are you? People ignored that email because they get thousands of 617, if you're a senior leader, emails a day on average. Of those, 40% have to be answered. And they have to be answered by end of day. Now, the average person probably gets 115, and they have to answer 40%. Think about how long that takes. And then I say, how's your day? And here's what happened. Because people don't understand the patterns, they're like, oh my God, what does she know? Usually there's a swear word in there. They're like, oh, are we getting a new manager? Am I getting fired? What's going on?
It's so true.
So,
it's so
that's
true.
how digital messes with your brain.
Oh my God, that's so scary because I'm thinking about if you sent me something. I mean, I actually get text message tricks like that. Hi, how are you? And I think it's they're trying to get me to answer and it's a trick. So maybe people think that too. I don't know.
Well, that's pretty new.
That's new because they're trying to get something from you. But I find that fascinating. And you're so right when you really think about it. I mean, obviously, you know what you're doing, but it's just, I think we've now become so guarded in general as human beings that to be able to have this opportunity to really sit. That's why I love my Thursdays. I usually always record on a Thursday. And I love meeting my guests. I've met so many interesting people that I'm like, oh, wow, I know how lucky I am to be able to do something like this where I can really connect with somebody that could live in a different country, could be completely different than me, but I'm able to really connect with that person for the hour that I record with them. And many of my guests I've kept in touch with, and I love that too. But it is about the human connection. And
100%.
It's so important.
It's also about giving your brain a break.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the social media kings of the world, because there's no queens, designed it to make it as addictive as it is. And I don't know if game makers for children design it to make it that addictive. I wish I didn't believe that their primary objective was to get everybody more addicted so that they would do more on them so they could sell them more.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is we are, because it's so much easier to answer someone on a text than it is to do it face to face. Like when I was dating, there was no way to text somebody, we're breaking up. It just didn't happen. You had to either hear their voice on the phone or leave them a voice message, or you had to see them in person. And now you can just send somebody a text and go, it's not really working for me. It's not you, it's me. But, we are dehumanizing ourselves and our reptilian brains. That's why our stress levels are off the charts.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at children, if you look at young adults, if you look at women, if you look at men 50 plus, stress. Look at what the American Psychological Association is saying. And then add in the economy, add in politics, add in wars. Like, I honestly don't know how much more we can take. If I could do anything before I die, it would be to unplug the freaking internet for the world for a few hours. Like, honestly, get off your phones. You are missing so much. And the thing that drives me crazy is when I'm driving down the street and I see mothers on their phone not interacting with their babies. Do you know what you're doing to your children at that point? Do you know how you're not training your children?
What's the worst part about it is, and I've told this story, I probably told it the last podcast to Lenore. I talk about it all the time. So I am definitely addicted to my phone. I know I am. I can't put it down. I'm obsessed with Instagram. I'm obsessed with knowing what's on the news right now. I need to know what's happening in the world. I just can't. I'm addicted. So we're going to talk about that in a second. Mm-hmm. But my listeners, and you must know, and I tell mothers, and my youngest daughter is in 5th grade class, whatever you do, do not get your kid a phone. Do not get your kid a phone. I finally caved and got her an Apple Watch because I now, I talk about the free range parenting, let her go downtown and she can get in touch with me so I know where she is, and that. I think that's okay, as long as she's not using the apps. But I noticed when I finally caved and got my now 15-year-old a phone in 6th grade, I was one of the last moms to do it because all the other moms had gotten their kids' phones. It changed her. She is addicted like I am. And once you go down this rabbit hole of the kid has the phone and they're addicted to it, you cannot get it out of their hands. And so I had a daughter that was thriving in school, straight A student. Now, I don't think she'd be mad at me because we talk about this for talking about it, but she knows, she's on TikTok. She follows all this stuff. The teenage girls have unrealistic images. If you saw my daughter, she's beautiful. She looks like she could be on the cover of a magazine with no makeup on, nothing on. But she does not see that because they all look at the filters and they all look at what the Kardashians, sorry if you like the Kardashians, caused our society to break down and have these images that are completely unrealistic. And these young girls see this and they compare themselves. Whereas you and I was just having my hair done yesterday, and I was joking that when I was in college was when all of the black, all the models Claudia Schiffer and high school. And I would take the magazine pictures and put them all over my walls and be I'm going to be in a magazine one day, doing a guest campaign. And that's what we looked at, but now we have these girls that are doing TikToks and that's all they see. Right?
It's just stop. First, just stop and do, I did things my child was so into Dance Moms. Do you remember that show? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I had to bring my cousin in who writes for real shows. He writes for them. I won't tell you which ones because it might burst your bubble. But I made him show her how you could tell all these people were lines. And I made him tell her how you pick the villain and how you pick the winner. Mm-hmm. And then when she started to get interested in like Botox and all those things at 14, I'm sorry, you know what I was doing at 14? Chores.
Yeah.
Chores. That was it. And I was trying out for cheerleading too. I was in, I think, 9th grade. That was like the biggest deal to me. And we didn't have a lot of weight issues. We didn't also the food was totally, I'm a big believer in really good food.
Yeah.
Anyway. So mothers, just break it down for your kids. Go to a plastic surgeon. I took her to a plastic surgeon so she could see how much money all these things cost. He showed her before and afters. He did everything. He was amazing. And then we went to an esthetician to see how you burn all those freckles off your face. Like, I invested so that she would not, because I had been on television. I knew exactly what she was seeing. I quit TV when she said she wanted to be on TV. I was like, and that's the end of me on TV. So, you have to understand yourself, because we're all, like in university, our biggest goal was dating boys and eating chocolate chip muffins. Like, that was really fun. Like, our parents weren't around to say, don't eat chocolate chip muffins. You know what I mean? But now when I'm talking to undergraduates, they're so focused on other different things, and then they're all focused on getting an A. That's not the point of university. The point of university isn't an all A. No one, when you graduate, says, and did you get an A in history? I've never asked that question in an interview in the thousands of people I've interviewed. No.
But this is the breakdown, like you're saying. What do you say to, like, me? What do you say to a parent? I'm sure there's moms and dads out there that are listening. And I have a daughter that's addicted to TikTok. I cannot take her phone out of her hand. So if somebody says to me, just take her phone, I can't get it away at this point. I have tried. I have I'm telling you, it's impossible. And then we want, I'm really trying to encourage, go on a bike ride, get outside, go talk to new people. But I just worry that it's so far gone.
But she's mirroring your behavior, because
yes,
you've already said you're an addict.
Yes, I am.
Together, you two have to do behavior modification.
So what do I do? And how do I reverse what I'm doing? So in the morning, the first thing I do is I pick up my phone. Yeah, and I'm what am I missing? What am I missing?
Have to, each of you together just have to do this. I'm telling you, it's life-changing. If you can, sit outside for 20 minutes every morning without your phone. Put a timer on and just sit outside for 20 minutes. Turn off your news notifications, FYI. Full disclosure, I work with TikTok on the mental health side of things and responsible gaming and gambling. Mm-hmm. So just so you know, I'm totally aware of TikTok, and they're really investing in trying to change this trend.
Good.
So they totally support what I'm saying. And so the first thing you have to do is just take back your life for 20 minutes. 20 minutes. And with your daughter, it's 20 minutes. You have to show me you can be with, what I call it is the bathtub test. Can you sit in a bathtub for 20 minutes without your phone?
Oh God. I don't take a bath, but now that you said that, I might start taking baths. I do. I go, actually I don't, because I take my phone on my walks with me. I go on really long walks every day, but I'm on my phone.
Right. So you should have your phone if you're on a long walk, in case, God forbid.
But I could go sit outside for 20 minutes. So it's like baby steps is what you're kind of saying.
So what we have to do is begin to recondition the brain back to its natural state. Mm-hmm. Your daughter's probably beginning to suffer from different stressors, and you'll probably see it in, if you're a mom, you'll probably see the child's shoulders creep up by the end of the day. They'll start here, but by the end of the day, you'll see their shoulders up here. That's their brain, their reptilian brain, fight or flight, getting them ready. You'll see the stress, I'm in flight. What am I going to do? I'm so stressed out. You'll see her argue with you more, I'm not going to put down my phone. I'm a very strict Irish Catholic mother, just so you know. And I'm I don't actually care what you want. This is not a democracy. This is a monarchy. I am queen. You do what I say.
It's for us, it's a little far gone for that. And like I said, this has been like, I have my 11-year-old don't have any of these issues because I haven't caved. And she's like not going to get a phone. I've told all of my friends, and we kind of have a pact, no phones until high school.
Great.
I'm not kidding. Not kidding. I'll get her a flip phone. I don't care.
But get it away from your daughter at nighttime.
Yes.
Lock it into a lock box, sit on it, do whatever. Because but see, then you have to prepare for the rest. Like, I was really strict with my daughter, and I was strict with my husband, because my husband's very much like you. He'll spend his life on the phone.
So is my husband, but my husband's always working. So it's like you said, no, he is literally always working. He's busy, busy, busy. And I worry about him for the heart attack stuff like you're talking about. It's like all this stuff. And so my question to you is, because I want to go back a little bit, because I kind of like skipped ahead and I feel like I'm meeting my new best friend.
I feel like that too.
We have so much in common. But what I want to ask you is, when you finally got like into this space where you are now, and you were like, okay, this is my second chance.
Yeah.
How, like, are these all things that you did?
Yep.
Okay.
And they're things I continue to do. Like, I don't run 10 kilometers anymore a day. I sort of run or walk my dog for 6 or 8. I don't put my body under that same pressure. I go to the gym. I work with a trainer, or, I do yoga. And if I don't have any money, I do yoga on the YouTube. It's free. That's the best part. But when I don't, my anxiety levels go through the roof. I'm CEO of a brand new mental health technology. So far people aren't buying it because they don't know they need it. It's like, I'm an iPhone right now coming out, and everybody's still on the BlackBerry and loves the BlackBerry. So it's really hard to make that push. So of course I have tons and tons of anxiety, and I can get very depressed, and I have to be careful not to worry about like my staff or my family or all of those things. And so when I don't take 20 minutes in the morning, and the thing is really interesting, I didn't realize I was doing it, but I've done short journals. I have a journal entry after my heart attack on my first night home. And what's really fantastic, even if you just do short journaling, and this is handwritten in pen, is you get your feelings out in a way that you can't do it on a phone. And then you can compare. So last night I was just like, oh my God, why am I always pushing this rock up the hill? And I read my journals from the different times on April 30th. And it's 1 or 2 sentences, right? And I think, oh my God, like, I am doing the same behavior. I need to change. I am causing this on myself. So now I need to change. But what I've just done is started this messaging in my prefrontal cortex, my intrinsic brain. That's where my language is. I'm writing down my language. Then my mammalian brain recognizes patterns, and my reptilian brain reacts accordingly. It's like, okay, you're solving the problem. We're going to bring you down. We're going to bring you out of stress. That's what 20 minutes in the morning does. And don't talk to anybody. Just take your coffee and go outside. If you don't have an outside and you're in an apartment, you just sit by the window. When I was in a basement apartment, I would just sit and look up at people's feet, And so it's just that 20 minutes where you're just with you. You're a hell of a nice person. Enjoy yourself. People aren't doing that anymore.
Yeah. I'm fortunate enough to have a yard. I'm looking how beautiful it is today. I mean, I think nature, and I talk about this a lot because I live by the beach, is so important for your health. And so I do appreciate so much all the beauty that surrounds me. And I say that a lot, is like, especially in this world right now that we're living in with the news and what's going on, it's like I'm addicted to like, how is this going to get solved?
So I need you to stop right there.
Yeah.
First of all, the news is the news.
Yeah.
It's always going to be there. Turn off your notifications. The best thing
I don't
did.
have notifications. I listen to the app like 24 hours a day. Don't do it.
No.
Yeah.
Just stop now.
Yeah.
I was on television. I was a columnist in the newspaper. Like, if it bleeds, it leads. If it's bad news, they push it out to you. And because that means you stay in longer. You don't need to give that much of yourself to what's going on. You set times. I'm going to check the news at 9. I'm going to check the news at 12. I'm going to check the news at 6. But here's what's interesting. If you just keep that one-word journal or that one-sentence journal, what you're going to see is a total change in your mood before or after you listen to the news. Don't not listen to the news. You have to be informed.
Right now,
maybe listen to longer form news like NPR or something else that sort of takes the time and allows you to breathe between stories. You're not breathing. When we used to watch, my mom and dad always watched the news. Like, I grew up in bed, they'd be watching the 11 o'clock news. And you kind of knew if you were in trouble by where they were in the newscast. You know what I mean? Like, ooh, how late am I? And
so
crap,
funny.
they're at the weather. It's all over.
Yeah.
You know, so we had natural breaks, commercials. And those natural breaks allowed your brain to breathe. We do not have natural breaks in digital. So when you go out on your walk and you're doing all this beautiful stuff for the physiology of you, you're still, like, what happens on digital? Here, I'll show you. Information comes in. Where's my phone? Here's my phone. So you're sitting here. First of all, you're in a bad situation because you're down. Your hands up, everything. Yeah. And you're reading. And your prefrontal cortex, the more it's reading, the more that stress I talked to you about, it's getting full. It's like tons and tons and tons of clouds. And so your prefrontal cortex, this part of your brain, cannot reach your mammalian brain and say, what's happening? What does this mean? Hi, how are you? Why isn't this making sense to me? So that means your reptilian brain right here, where all the physiology of your body, your breathing, your pain, your heart, everything is located right here and controlled right here. It starts to go, okay, there's a problem. Let's go. Get ready to fight or flight. Let's do it. And that's why we're all so stressed. And by the end of the day, you probably notice in your car, you have to adjust your mirror because you're carrying so much stress. And so when we look at this from just the point of view of mental health, what the hell are we doing to ourselves? Take yourself back. Give yourself at least 3 minutes. Give yourself that commercial break. Right now, I see children on iTablets or iPads. I'm not that old. Where did iTablets come from? Anyway, I don't know. I get so worked up about this. And I want to grab them out of the baby's hand and say to the parents, just stop right now. Don't take your kid out for dinner if they're not going to behave. Just get out. You're killing your child. Because what you're doing is just overloading the prefrontal cortex so the brain can't work properly. I'm sorry, parents, if you're like, oh, well, you don't understand. Oh, I understand. I was the primary breadwinner. I had a baby. I had to take the baby to work with me because I had no childcare and no parents around. She went to work with me every single day. And
we didn't know, because so both my kids had iPads as toddlers, and we would go to dinner and I just plan them. But now we know better. Yeah. And I love what you said. There's 2 points I just want to say really quickly. The point that you said about just shutting everything down. You know, like I did an episode pretty recently about AI and the AI being so scary and all the things. Like, there's great things about AI. It's the same thing with like the internet, or, you know, like what it's become. It's like continuing to snowball. And there's all kinds of information now that these phones are causing early onset Alzheimer's. It's like, you know, everything we know, but we don't want, it's like almost like, you know, you've gained weight and you have to go on a diet, but you just don't want to do the work, right? It's the same thing. Like, I know that I'm addicted to my phone. I'm going to have to do these 20 minutes every day. But during that 20 minutes, hopefully it'll get easier. It's a great idea. I promise you I'm going to do it. But we just become so like, I don't want to do the work. And I feel like my kids have been cheated, because I had a really hard childhood, but I had such a great childhood in the ways that my mom would just be like, go outside, go play.
Yeah.
You know, when I was a teenager, like, you know, if you needed to use the phone, like I'm old enough that like I had a pager or like,
Sure.
you know, I was auditioning in New York and someone would page me, but there were still no phones, you know? So I don't know. And then you said that, but the other thing I wanted to say that you brought up in the beginning was the hormone piece of this.
Yeah.
With stress and phones. So like if you're my age or you're somebody like I've done episodes about like perimenopause and menopause. I had a hysterectomy last year because I was having such bad issues. I wonder how this all comes together, that piece of it with women, of the phone addiction and the menopause or the perimenopause and like what it's doing to your brain. Because you brought that up in the beginning with like, you know, you were having a heart attack. Yeah.
You know, it's so funny. We were just talking about this at the gym. I don't think people have studied it.
Mm-hmm.
I suspect the less estrogen we have, the more we become addicted to something.
Mm.
And because we need some sort of comfort, for example, AI. Do you know that children are using AI as their personal therapists now? Children.
Yeah. There's people committing suicide over AI. There's cases that have happened. Yeah.
You know, for women, honestly, when you're stressing, you have no hormones, you know, and what are you going to do? You're going to go online, you're going to look for a group of women that have no hormones like you, and you're going to, oh my God, or you're going to go on Facebook, or you're going to do this, or you're going to do that. You're not going to go for a half an hour walk that will serve you so much better because your brain will clear. You'll get those stress hormones down in your brain. Like there's just, not stress hormones, stress chemicals down in your brain. Like what we do is we talk about high dopamine, low dopamine, and then how we manage those two things and how we have been able to demonstrate with our platform, with our micro breaks, that we can change your mood from stress to happy in less than 3 minutes. And the reason we use a phone to do all this is because 82% of the adults are just like you and can't put down their phones. And you know what? At nighttime, as long as I don't look at Instagram where I have all the puppy like videos,
me too.
Like, I'm good.
Cows.
I'm like totally good.
Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, it's like you have to be careful what's being invented. But like you said, if we were men, like, because they would have studied all of this, but because we're female, they haven't. And thank God for hormones, and like look into them because they saved me for my listeners. And if you want to go back and listen to episodes, please do so, because it's all the stuff I've had to go through. It's like saved my life. Okay, so in closing, is there anything like I'm kind of missing here? Because I felt like we talk so much about the personal side, and I, of course, with my big mouth, always have to butt in with my own stories. But I'm so passionate about what you do and how we can better ourselves as a society, because this is scary. It's snowballing.
It really is. And, you know, there's a funny story. A friend of mine in Ireland, when I was in Ireland presenting this, and we won an award for it in Ireland, of all places, he said, "Are you an Irish witch?" And I was like, what? And it was the ability to be able to take feel good and transfer it through digital so that people get that moment. And that's what we all need. And we need to start using digital for good. We've been using it for evil for a very, very, very long time. And that I really feel that the tide needs to change. We're seeing great work with large corporations who are saying, okay, we're embracing this. Let's figure out how to use it, what to do. We have an email thing where we can just email you 2 or 3 times a week. And you get a little question. How are you feeling today? Are you feeling like a butterfly on a flower? Or are you feeling like a bee who can't find a flower? Like, it's silly Billy stuff. And people have told me even just getting that email, it's just like, oh, I'm not a butterfly, Mary. Like, they're just like, are you a goof? But the reason we do all those things is to trigger what we call transient hyperfrontality in your brain, which is the clearing of prefrontal cortex. The reason we do it on the phone is because you're not going to put down your phone and listen to me. What you are going to do, though, is probably use one of my micro breaks instead of taking a Tylenol. And that's good, clean mental health. Not that there's anything wrong with Tylenol or any of those things. Mm-hmm. But every time I get panicked, somebody says to me, oh, you need Prozac. No, I need like $1 million in sales. I don't need Prozac. Go away. And I'm pretty sure they've never said that to my husband. And he's gone through the same thing. We've been together since university, but I'm pretty sure no doctor's ever said to him, you're just a little hysterical. A resident said that to me in the hospital, and that's when I was like, and we're done. Can I talk to the headache surgery, please?
I mean, obviously like antidepressants, like we're not saying anything bad because they're saved my life. Yeah, but it is so true that like the minute like a female brings up something, it's the first thing that people go to besides like really drilling down as to the reasons why you might be feeling this way. And it is the human connection. And it is like checking in with yourself, checking in with your friends. You know, there's so many great things that you're saying, like that the digital world could be. I know that, you know, if I'm on my phone at night, you were talking about puppies, which I am also following all of that because I'm a huge animal lover. But there's more and more people that are posting, like, I think it's an Instagram called like the Good Movement or something. Yeah. And it's posting videos about like being kind, or that's like the good side of it. And that's what we need more of, right? Is what you're saying.
Here's an interesting point, and I wrote this in one of my books, was in the 70s, a large proportion of the US population volunteered. And our mental health, we had a lot of mental health issues, but not as many as we do today. We have like 3 times more or something. I can't remember the exact numbers, so don't quote me, please. But also volunteering's gone down. In our brains, in our bodies, in our beings, we want to help people. Going and hurting people actually causes us pain. Like if you've ever had a really bad argument and then you start to feel bad about it, that's the exact same thing. So think about it this way. If you need Prozac or any of those things, take them. But also for yourself, for your brain, get off. Go help someone else, even if it's just raking their leaves for an hour, and then come back and tell me how you feel.
It's so true. I mean, you're speaking my language, because I think I used to say at the end of every episode, be happy by making other people happy, because my dad used to say that all the time. So I always said it, and then I changed the end like a couple of years ago. But it is true. Like the happiest you will ever feel, listeners, is when you go and you do something for someone else. There is nothing like no pair of shoes, because I'm a shopper. No pair of Mary. I'm coming to Canada. That's it.
It's my addiction.
It's my addiction. It is shopping. But no matter like what pair of shoes I get, what bag, whatever I'm going to buy, it is never going to make me feel as good as knowing, like, it could be something as simple as being at a grocery store and somebody's behind you and you say, you know what? I really like your shirt. You look really pretty today. And then you could have made that person's whole day. That's what we need.
There is a very famous book that talks about that, how to win friends and influence people. But he calls out Alfred Adler, who said he had patients who were suffering greatly from depression and all those kinds of things. And they didn't have the same pharmaceuticals that would help some of the chemical imbalances. But what he told people to do is, yes, you feel bad about yourself for 23 hours a day. But for 1 hour a day, I want you to go and take care of someone else. And it worked.
Yeah. And we need more of it. Okay, where can people find you? Because this could be a 5-hour long podcast. I'm not kidding either.
I think it could, and I love talking to you. We'll need to keep talking.
Yes, please.
They can find me on LinkedIn, Dr. Mary Donohue, with 2 O's. And I'm on Instagram, but I don't know much. Like, I haven't allowed myself to do much on Instagram. I think I have 4 posts. And LinkedIn is really the best way to get a hold of me, or you can look at the Digital Wellness Center and thedigitalwellnesscenter.com. Right there, you'll see what we're doing with gambling and helping reduce problem gambling. And I've really benefited from some great companies there that are working with us to bring down the incidences of gambling based on my littlest brother.
Okay, I've done enough. I should introduce you to Dr. Ted. What's his last name? UCLA. I did a whole episode about gambling addiction. Yeah. Okay. In closing, everyone, thank you so much for listening. I adore all of my listeners. Thank you for reaching out. Also, we're going to be okay. This conversation today made my whole day. Really, honestly, Mary. Thank you again for coming on. Everyone, keep going. You matter. Your story matters.
Judging Meghan with Meghan Judge.